What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
We are here live again doing a recap of Andor. We got a couple of guys on already. Kit Fistu, the guy B, that guy B, and Nathan. Thanks, guys, for jumping on. We got Mike here with us again, Nick and Derek. Everybody knows where everybody comes from at this point. We're going to be doing a recap here of Andor 4, 5, and 6. I thought it was pretty cool. It was, again, Mike, I think when you talk about having these 3 episodes all at once, it definitely helps out instead of, okay, we got a week to wait here.
Yeah.
Back and forth, you know?
It clearly makes sense now. I mean, 6 episodes in, it makes perfect sense. Very skeptical of that release schedule at first, but pretty much as soon as week 1 happened, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then week 2 solidified that. It really wouldn't have made much sense if we were watching this week to week. I mean, it would make sense, but it would be like, you know, it would get a lot of crap, I feel like, for being and bore all over again, you know?
Yeah, exactly. If you're joining us, we will have spoilers on here. We've all seen them at least once. Mike's probably gone through them a couple times, but yeah. So if you're on here and you haven't seen Andor 4, 5, and 6 yet, and you don't want to get spoiled, you might as well jump off. So we appreciate everybody that is on here. What I'd like to start is, well, just sort of what you guys thought of the episode. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, 4, 5, and 6, just sort of, we don't have to go through all of it. I know we're going to talk a lot about each episode, but Derek, you want to go first?
Ooh, so if I did it each episode, I would say 7.5, 8, and an 8.5. But overall, I give it a 9 overall. And
Yeah.
I apologize. My camera keeps going out of focus. I'll fix it.
No, that totally makes sense too. Like, because your score is literally higher when it's all 3, because that's how it works. It works so much better as like just a one big episode or one big movie, I guess. Yeah, I was a lot higher on it. I thought, honestly, that 3rd episode was one of the best we've seen from Andor, like, just period. And obviously the first 2 episodes leads up to that. I thought episode 1 was great. I thought episode 2, pretty much the same thing as the first week. Episode 2 is that sort of in-betweener episode. It's like an act 1, act 2, act 3. And the first one is the second best. Third one's the best. In the middle is sort of the least best, if you will. But yeah, that 3rd episode just freaking blew my socks off. So all in all, I'd probably give it like a 9, 9.2. Like it's high up there. And I honestly think, because it is these 3 episode arcs, they're always setting up the 3rd episode in the arc. I think they're setting up really the next 2 arcs. Obviously the Gorman Massacre and stuff, but all the stuff with Krennic and all this sort of back and forth, although there is this big year gap, it's still setting up these overarching stories across the 6 episodes, which is pretty damn cool and very difficult to accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hey, Auntie K and Tim, welcome. Thanks, guys, for joining on here. We're going through what we scored these 3 episodes. So if you guys want to put them in the chat there, and we'll talk to you guys about that as well. Nick, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I'll give a score if you want. I was about to say that I need to maybe stop giving scores because I'm not very good at attributing a number, because I think last week I said 9 out of 10, and I like this one better. I like this batch better.
11 out of 10.
Yeah, just I like this one better. Like I said, I like the drama of it. I like dialogue Easter eggs as opposed to just visual Easter eggs. We got all of them.
Yeah.
I agree with Mike. I'm sure we all feel the same way, but I agree. I think the 3rd episode was so good, and the rebel attack didn't even happen. And that is what's so perfect about that for me, is like you're on pins and needles the whole time. We'll get into it, but if I mean, I gave it a 9 last batch, and I liked this batch honestly like a lot more.
Yeah.
And so to be like diplomatic, I'll say like 9.1. But I don't think I'm a reliable scorekeeper at this point. So
funny you mentioned that, because I've gotten called out for that a couple times, where people are like, "What's your system?" I was like, "My system is how I feel about the episode."
Yeah.
But like I got in trouble, I guess, once, where I ranked Ahsoka, because I love Ahsoka so much, so high that I got to the point where I was ranking the episodes before the 5th episode, which is the big episode, and the World Between Worlds. And I got to the 5th episode, I was like, okay, this is better than all the other ones. It's got to be, and I broke the scale. I was like, this is an 11 out of 10. Okay, I've never done this. But Ron, what are you ranking?
Mine was I give them an 8. I'll say an 8.5 at the end. I love the acting in it. I think I set everything up too high, and I wanted to get more stuff already because we're already halfway through, and I've heard rumors that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are like a big because like you were talking about yesterday, Mike. I thought for sure that Bix would die. I figured something would go along in those, and we're doing spoilers here, so if you've jumped on, we've already watched it. But with Cinta dying, it was a whole different thing. But yes, for me, 3 was probably a 9 because I thought the acting in it was fantastic, and we got to see a little bit more of what's going on, and we're bringing these rebels all together at the same time. So I thought, but still an 8, maybe a 9 total, but an 8 for each 3 episodes individually, for sure.
Yeah, I tend to do that a lot too, where I hype myself up for something to happen. And I'm not really like, if it doesn't happen, I'm not like, oh, this is the end of the world. But yeah, once I caught wind of that whole Bix could possibly die type idea, I was like, this has got to happen. It just made a lot of sense because she wasn't on Gorman for the Gorman Massacre, at least in the trailers. She's really not in any events in the trailers after what we just saw this week. So I wonder how they're going to really play with the character of Bix moving forward, which would be interesting because she's alive.
She said she wants to do missions, and she just proved it.
Yeah. That was insane.
Do you think that was a mission, or do you think the two of them did that on their own?
That was their own mission.
I think they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know because the whole confrontation between Cassian and Luthen at the beginning of that episode, where he's like literally like, you got to help me. You got to help me with this whole Bix thing because we're obviously going to get to it eventually, but we're starting with episode 3, I guess. Luthen and Cassian have that whole, he literally comes to the doorstep of the gallery. Like, he's not supposed to do that. He's really upset. And he's talking about how Bix needs help, and Cassian's like, Luthen's saying, like, you got to sort of get rid of your attachments. He's like the Jedi Order, pretty much. He's like saying, no attachments. You got to give everything to the rebellion. And if Bix is going to be a problem, you have to get rid of that. He literally says you have to get rid of her at one point, which is crazy. But he asks him at the end to help him. And he doesn't say yes or no. He just says, thanks for bringing in this artifact, because he's pretending that he brought in an artifact or whatever. So I wonder, I agree with you. I think they did that on their own, but maybe Luthen like slid them a note under the desk or something like that. Like,
also, there's no way Luthen, with how he operates so far, even in season 2, there's no way he's not going to hear about it if they did do it on their own.
Yeah. And the other thing was Lonnie, there's a very specific scene that's almost like a throwaway scene where Partagaz tells Lonnie that Dr. Gorse is getting the promotion. He's getting his own branch or whatever. So Lonnie has that information. So that's why Bix and Cassian would know where they are, because Luthen has contact with Lonnie.
So I feel like you hit there, like there's an implication that information got passed a couple hands. Lonnie to Luthen, Luthen to them.
Exactly. So I think honestly that might be like Luthen saying, look, here's this on a silver platter. Bix can go do this, and then hopefully she'll be fine. And maybe that's a little,
Well, and we were talking last week, about, a now sort of like infamous scene in the first batch where she overcame this dream, literally, and, somewhat kind of got it a little bit back together, but now she's abusing substances and is having a tough time.
Yeah.
Her going and doing that is like breaking the chain a little bit. And I feel like this is the strength get back she needed, to be able to go with him and actually do stuff, But I don't know what happens if they're going to keep on the, substance abuse path, because that's going to be a problem.
I don't think they will.
I don't think so, because Luthen said, he goes, it's fine until you stop. Almost like encouraging her to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But then she killed the demons,
Yeah. Literally, I mean,
figuratively and literally.
Yeah, so I wonder if that'll continue. But I mean, like you guys are saying, what's Bix's future in this show? Because with the Gorman Massacre, we know that Cassian's going to be there. We know that's sort of where him and K2SO meet or something along those lines. Like next week is probably going to be K2SO time. Is Bix going to be involved in that story still?
Yeah.
Or is she like cast to the side, or does she get killed off? Or I don't know. Her character is such a mystery moving forward.
I do want to give myself the biggest pat on the back ever for predicting that relationship. Not that it was really that like mysterious, but I definitely called out the last episode. And I said, did it.
Nice.
You heard it here first. We broke that.
You did.
Yes.
Nathan got a good point, and I know we were just talking about that. Can you guys see that up there?
Yeah.
I thought that's a pretty good observation.
That is actually pretty interesting. Yeah, it was a lot of this show is very much like the sequel trilogy. Like I mentioned already, that Luthen and Cassian relationship is like master and apprentice almost. Like you're seeing when Cassian in episode 2 or episode 5, I guess I keep like 1, 2, 3, episode 5 goes to Gorman and he's pretending to be like Luthen. Like he's got this whole thing on, like he's got a nice new hairdo and outfit, like it's Luthen, but he's pretending to be the guy on Coruscant. And he's learned that over time from Luthen. So it's like the master or the apprentice becomes the master in that scenario. But that scared me. No. But when that argument happens in episode 6, it's really like Luthen's like, all right, come on. I'm still the master. You're still the apprentice type deal. And the whole him going to visit Bix is almost like just a mind game type deal. Like Cassian even says he knew we were going to have this conversation. He knew that we were going to talk about this. And when he goes to confront him, he's like, Bix obviously told me. What do you think she wasn't going to tell me? He's like, well, I thought she might not tell you, but you guys both disappointed me or something like that. Like it's very weird.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, that was he did that on purpose to see how Cassian would act. And again, what he said, like you said, you both disappointed me or whatever it was. It's like, dude, come on. I think that I don't think she'll make the next 3 episodes. It'll be interesting. Maybe we all think that, and maybe she's going to go all the way up to the end and she goes off somewhere. I don't know. But let's sort of reverse a little bit and go back to episode 1 or episode 4.
Like a great idea.
Yeah. What happened?
And start there instead of 7.
So we were doing like a Quentin Tarantino type of thing.
Yeah.
Reverse back. I do like how they're continuing to, do the BBY, right? Is it BBY? Yeah, beforehand, and continue to stick with that. I thought it was interesting. I guess we'll get to that in a second, but episode 6 was when they started doing a different different opening, correct?
5, but the one. It was weird. Yeah.
But we get to see Cyril, and he's got the big promotion now. That
was really cool because honestly, when we first see that the rebels there are spying on him, and he's saying all these things about like, the people of Gorman are nice. Like, don't listen to the imperial propaganda that they're talking about for these when he's talking to his mom. It made me think that maybe Cyril could turn to the light side and maybe become a rebel, like we sort of were speculating about last week. Like Dedra or Cyril. Dedra seems to be pretty just straightforward evil, but Cyril, I mean, since the beginning, he's trying to hunt down Cassian because Cassian murdered 2 people, not because the Empire says it, because the Empire actually tries to stop him. Yeah. So he seems to be more of a right and wrong type guy. And we see in a couple trailers, he's got quite the expression on his face when he's on Gorman, probably watching the massacre happen. Like he's not going to be too happy about that. So his character next week is going to be pretty interesting. But where we see him in episode 4, now with this promotion, which his mom doesn't think it is, but this promotion on Gorman, it's pretty cool. him and Dedra specifically, like using him and not keeping him in the loop, even though like he's her boyfriend to an extent. Turn off the lights.
Turn off
no.
the lights.
Yeah.
Got an hour.
But it's just genius because it's like not until maybe, I don't know, halfway through episode 4 or something till we realize that he's actually using these rebels. Like we actually think that he could be working with the rebels because it's actually in his character's arc, kind of.
Yeah, I was right there with you, Mike, because when he's talking to his mom specifically, like he's so often in this show is just annoyed with her.
Yeah.
That I was like, that seems like Cyril being Cyril. And then of course you see him, as Nathan points out, like just giddy to be reporting to Dedra, even when he probably shouldn't be, just like every little detail. And he, to his credit, as much as I can't stand Cyril, he is doing a great job. He is doing a great job. And it helps him that these people have no idea what they're doing, which we'll get into eventually. But I think it still holds from our speculation. Maybe I'm just taking my speculation that I do think he'll flip somehow. I don't think he's going to be a good guy, but I think he's going to break somehow, because they made a point to say in one of the episodes, what we were talking about last week, is that he's not going to know what's really coming. Like Dedra's told him there's an occupation, something big secret job, and it's the time of his life, best day of his life. But when it comes down to it, he's going to see what it's really going to amount to. And I think he's going to break. I think he's going to bring his mom with him. I think it's going to be bad, you know? I don't know.
I agree.
But
I absolutely agree. And when we think about like what's really going to go down with this Gorman massacre too is the whole Dedra choking scene from the trailers. I mean, it's very unlikely at this point that Vader is force choking her, as sad as it is to say. But that room we see in episode 4, I think it is, when he contacts Dedra. And so that obviously means that Dedra will be on Gorman at some point. But if she's freaking out from the Gorman massacre, like if that's her freaking out because of what's happening, like she's having a panic attack, whatever, fixing her collar, then if that's her reaction, Cyril's is going to be much worse because she's more of a level-headed person.
Can we put a pin in that for later when we get into some other stuff?
Yeah.
The choking and the massacre.
Yeah.
All right, I got something later, but go ahead.
I pulled up the episode because there's so much in the 3 episodes that I don't remember what's going on, so I pulled it up so I can remember what episode 4 specifically is.
Good idea.
So it opens with Bix having the nightmare.
Yeah.
That's a great sequence, and it introduces us, because we have these year gaps, what's been going on. So they went on this mission. Cassian murdered a guy, and although that's pretty normal for Cassian, to Bix that's very, very bad. Like, no, you don't kill people. Like, she goes from episode 4, don't kill people, to end of episode 6, I'm killing people. But she sees the guy, random guy that Cassian killed on the mission, being tortured by Dr. Gorst. Now, thankfully, Gorst is now dead. But the whole... People talk about the casting in Star Wars. Especially with this show, it's perfect. The Gorst guy is just so creepy. It's great. But yeah, I mean, seeing that Bix is really going through it in these first 6 episodes. So I think, again, because we don't know what's going to happen next, hope she gets some sort of a redemption. But nobody's ever safe in this show.
Well, I also like how they're like using these things that we kind of think are these long plays, like Dr. Gorst, for example. That's done.
Yeah,
like for all intents and purposes, because we got another year to the next one. So, you know, the ramifications of Gorst being gone will be covered, you know, in the time that we're not going to see. And I like that they're moving on. I like that they've done that with a couple things. Of course, now that I say that, I don't have any in mind. But
Take-Homa.
Yeah, Take-Home. Yeah, done. Yep. And we're moving on. And it was powerful enough. And Derek, can I pat myself on the back?
Yes.
Forgery business. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Whole thing.
Well, that wasn't Luthen's forgery, but yes.
Yeah, I know. But I felt like something. Yeah. Anyway.
You could feel it in the Force.
Yeah. So it wasn't as good. It wasn't as spot on as Derek's, but
No, I mean,
It was
nobody can
still
be as
good.
spot on as Derek. Yeah, no, that was great. This is the whole forgery stuff. That's again, the writing is so genius in this, where I'm gonna skip ahead to episode 6 again, but where the only reason that Lonnie is at that party, the only reason that Clea is able to get that device is because Lonnie's at that party.
Yep.
And the only reason that he's at that party is because the rebel attack is happening on Gorman, because Partagas is working on that because he was supposed to be at the party, and he uses his invite to give to Lonnie. It's just all just works together so well. It's just perfect. It's so good. But going back to episode 4, Nick brings up a great point with all the stuff that happened at the end of episode 3, and how there's a year that passed and we almost just forget about that stuff. Take Homa, I thought was going to be a big deal. At least if she's dead, like to Mon Mothma, like I feel like she'd be a little upset with Luthen. We didn't really get that explained too much, you know?
Yeah, but we did see. So I brought this up in your watch party too about Luthen, and like long-haired Luthen has a different voice than short-haired Luthen, and it is becoming more apparent to me in these episodes. And I went back and I watched a couple of the other ones, and he kind of did it, especially when he was in the elevator well, I guess that would have been last season. But he gets this really raspy voice when his hair is short.
Yeah.
And it's him playing two different people. There's a point where he actually is two people. He is not the same person when he's doing this versus when he's doing that.
Yes.
And I think that direction and acting is genius to me. And he sells it so well.
To your point, Derek, even sometimes when they're talking and he is long-haired Luthen and he takes Mon Mothma aside, he gets right into that.
Yeah.
Like when he's really talking business, when he switches off the art and antiquities, it's when it starts to come out. And he's so good at that.
And a little shout out to my boy. Same thing happens in the prequel trilogy with Palpatine. So I love seeing it with someone that we're actually rooting for, because there are many moments. Ron and I just went to Revenge of the Sith in theaters, by the way. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But and I went with Madeline too, Ron. It was great.
Oh, nice.
And so I even didn't notice it, but there's even a moment when he's talking to Anakin and telling him who he is. He goes like, "Oh, son, let me teach you the subtleties." And then they start arguing, and then he gets the voice. And I noticed that as you were saying that, Derek, I was like, "Oh man, Luthen's like
I was thinking the same thing.
It's genius."
And like Luthen he could have some of that dark side in him. He doesn't want them to have power. Not saying that that's the case, but he said some things in a few of these episodes about like the things he has to do and getting his hands dirty,
or like Gorman. Could you imagine if a wealthy, prosperous place like Gorman's on the front line, and if it burns, it's going to be huge. It's like, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean,
he knows that's going to happen. He knows Gorman is going to go down, and he's preparing for it. If anything, he might be egging it on.
Oh yeah, that's why he's sending second team in there.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was the first week where I got this sort of vibe from Luthen, because he's been my favorite character so far through Andor. But I kind of brought it up in my breakdowns, but he's making a lot of enemies of his friends. Like obviously the whole Cassian and Luthen stuff, he's very mad at him. Vel is already mad last week because he's keeping Cinta from him. Mon Mothma's going to be mad because Take Homa is probably dead now. So everybody's
Clea's pissed at him.
Yes, Clea and him have that huge argument in episode 2. So over and over and over again, he's sort of losing touch. And the reason might be because he's been the leader of this rebellion for so long. But that rebellion, up until Aldhani in season 1, wasn't really that big. It wasn't. Everything was sort of in the shadows. Aldhani was almost their like opening day party type thing, and sort of they're telling the Empire that we're here. And since then, he's almost like slowly losing it. In episode 5 of this week, we see him snap. Like he snaps on Clea when she reveals to him that the whole Davos thing is happening, and he snaps like that. He's like, we shouldn't have that there, and they had the whole big argument. But I could see it like sort of eventually, maybe next week, maybe the week after, it all sort of bubbles up and it's too much for Luthen, and maybe he snaps on somebody or something. Like, he's gonna die by the end of the season. It's almost more so, will he stay the hero that we love?
Is he gonna die by the hands of somebody in the rebellion?
Yeah. I mean, Cassian's such a cold-blooded murderer. He could get mad enough about Bix. Maybe Luthen sends Bix on a mission and she dies. Like, he would be pissed. So, or maybe, I mean, they just sent them on a mission where Cinta dies. Is Vel going to be really that mad about it and maybe go after Luthen? I don't know.
Or Clea. Maybe. Yeah, she's obviously got some different directions going on of like, she is not loving what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right in front of him.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
I think it'll be Saw or Cassian.
Yeah, Saw is very interesting.
I think Saw's too easy though.
I'm gonna what do you call it? Turn in my pin. That I put in earlier.
Okay, pull that pin.
Yeah. I think I still hold to my speculation that Saw is going to be involved in Gorman. And the only reason I hold it now is because Willman's with him. And I feel like just the nature of the show is going to bring them back together a little bit.
Yeah, we know Willman's at the Gorman Massacre.
Yeah, and Willman has to be there. And I think Saw just radicalized him by whatever he just did to him.
Oh yeah,
and so
in that spice.
Yeah, and so as you're talking about Dedra choking, I don't know. I think Saw loves the idea of what this stuff can do. I think Saw would be then labeled not only obviously a terrorist by the Empire, but a terrorist by Mon Mothma if he makes the thing pop off crazy. Yeah. And I love that he's like, Willman, you're the only guy who could do this. I'm getting you on board with me, and we're gonna Shrek and Donkey on a whirlwind adventure. And that to me means that Saw is going to be involved more than just leading him into Rogue One. He also still has all his limbs. So, I don't know. That was the pin.
Something has to happen. I mean, with Saw, I thought, well, he's not in episode 6 this week. So he's got the big setup of episodes 4 and 5 because we knew we were going to get some Saw. We need some Saw. But Saw is just such a great character, and we got so much information about his character, even though we've had so much information from the Clone Wars and stuff. But it gives us even more about this Rhydonium. Is it called Rhydonium?
Yeah, Rhydonium.
Yeah.
Is that what he's got in the mask then in Rogue One, do we think? Is that that he's sucking on in Rogue One?
I didn't even think of that.
They did say this was going to change Rogue One.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy.
Here's the other thing. What if Dedra's not being force choked? What if they're pumping that room full of Rhydonium?
That's what I'm saying. That if he's there and this is his big thing, like let's steal all this Rhydonium, and he shows up, they're going to use it. And
yeah, that is pretty interesting because we do see Wilmon in the trailers at the Gorman Massacre. And although we see so many scenes of the Gorman Massacre in all these trailers, there's really no cohesive what happens there, like who comes out on top, what happens, how many people die, like all that stuff. We just see bits and pieces. Wilmon's there, Dedra's there, Cyril's there, Cassian's there. So maybe Saw is there too with his people, and the Rhydonium becomes more of a thing. That would be pretty wild. What I love about Saw is how crazy he is. And honestly, when I was doing my research for my breakdown for the Rhydonium, it says pretty much if you inhale it, it can change your vocal cords, and maybe that's why he sounds the way that he does. Like Saw has that very raspy voice. It's like revolution is for the same. Like he's got that. And honestly, and the other thing was like it causes brain damage too if you're exposed to too much of it. Like he's going crazy. And clearly this is why. He's aware, but like he's losing his mind.
Yeah.
Like in Rogue One, he's lost his mind clearly. So this might be the reason for that, and it's a very cool piece to his story. But yeah, like you're saying, we know where he ends up in Rogue One on Jeddah, but we don't know how he gets there, how he becomes all mangled up, all that stuff still. So,
And the Gorman Massacre is 5 episodes, isn't that correct?
no, Tony Gilroy just said that Gorman would be in about 5 of the episode, or like it would be the main place of like 5 of the episodes. And honestly, I guess that would only mean that 2 episodes next week are going to focus on Gorman, because 3 this week did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess only 2. The Gorman Massacre will be over and done with right away in the next 3 episodes, and then the 3rd episode might be the getting Mon Mothma off Coruscant episode. I don't know.
I think that's probably the best bet, considering how they've taken these big things and wrapped them up, like Dr. Goris, like Takehova, the wedding, all that kind of stuff we're done with. And I could see it being a huge moment, but we still got to like, the bigger things are like how these characters end up.
Yeah.
The massacre is huge and it's a big linchpin, but
Yeah, that's always been my question since day one, is the massacre's gonna be in that 3rd arc because it has a specific date, and that date is 2 BBY. So that happens next week. We know that. It's only one of very little things we know. So what is the next week after that? Like, what's this great finale for this show that's getting a 96% of Rotten Tomatoes? Like, we have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I was just like double checking because I thought that that Rhydonium came up in some other new stuff, and it's in the Mandalorian. That's when Din and Mayfeld are transporting that stuff, the highly explosive stuff. So we know the power of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was in like, I think it was in Clone Wars on Andafar or Adafar or whatever.
It was it was in Rebels too.
Yeah, so like we know that they're using it for fuel, but like the explosions and what it can do, and now we've got this other aspect of almost like getting them high. Mike, I think you might be onto something with Saul. Might be part of Gorman.
Yeah, I would love to take credit for that, but I think Nick said it first. No.
Sorry, Nick.
No.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Force joking.
I am going to make my prediction is that the joking is actually the Rhydonium, though.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I like that theory a lot.
I also want to point out just real quick that Dakar was in this series.
Yes.
Where the Resistance ends up one day.
That is a weird little tie, because the characters of Leia and Saw are so different, and they both leading a rebellion on that planet, which is cool.
And then they're gone. He said, "Burn whatever you don't take. We're out of here." So
they're not coming back.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
Or are they going to go to where are they on Rogue One?
Jeddah.
Yeah, Jeddah. Are they going to go to Jeddah from here?
I mean, I don't know, because that's 2 years later.
2 years later.
2 years is a long time, so who knows? Maybe I wonder if Saw is gonna like try to go to Yavin, or not Yavin, but like try to team up with Luthen and Mon Mothma's rebels. Like, will that be an attempt, and then he's too crazy to be around, or I don't know.
Well, in this like year, I would assume he's on a world tour of hitting these sites that are so important to him. I love the whole like Willman noticing that this guy's asking him too much.
That was great.
And then Saw very quickly giving him a location.
Yeah.
I was like, man, something's gonna happen. And then it did.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In that, you again see how crazy Saw is, though.
Yeah.
Because he's ready to like kill Wilmon like the whole time.
Well, like I said, he's crazy, and he's still self-aware now. He was not self-aware in Rogue One. He's paranoid. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
But now he's like, you look at me like I'm crazy. I am.
Yeah.
But here we are. Just stick around. Smell this stuff. Everybody runs away from it. But
that is very true. I'm just looking through the episode here. In episode 4, when they at the ISB headquarters, when they have that meeting where we sort of get to see Dedra feel left out from the whole Axis thing with her former underling guy, who's now in charge of the Axis project. He's talking about how for 10 days they had this information. She's like, why didn't you come to me with that and all that stuff? I think on Gorman, because all those characters are there, at some point, like they're going to make eye contact across the courtyard. It's like Cassian and Dedra or something, because she's been looking for him for 2 years, on and off.
Or Cyril.
Yeah, or Cyril too, yeah. So that'll be a big sort of finally meeting for the first time in 3 years, yeah, since Ferrex, since they last met at Marva's funeral. So that'll be pretty wild. And that'll all come back.
And I will say it's another reason why my Saw guess holds, is because I think more than anything she's going to try to like parlay the Axis thing with her Gorman job. I think she's not going to be able to let it go, and she's going to find some way to instigate Axis in some way.
Interesting.
In this Gorman thing, yeah.
So
that's what I was saying last week, but I don't know.
Well, she doesn't know that it's Luthen, obviously.
Right.
So maybe she puts that title onto Saw. Like if Saw is sort of the mastermind behind the Gorman stuff, then maybe she thinks that it's Saw and Luthen can get away with it or something.
But she at minimum thinks Andor is involved with that.
Yeah, she knows that for sure.
Whatever she can tie to him, the better.
Yeah, true. There was a weird thing about going back to the Wilmot and Saw stuff. There was a very weird thing where Saw asked him, and the guy Pluty asked him who taught him to do this. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like something that they focused on a couple times, and he wouldn't say. Like, I don't know, it was a weird thing with that character.
Yeah, but, well, I'm guessing it was his dad.
Yeah, I mean,
Elin or so.
Ooh, that'd be crazy.
I don't think it is, but
no, yeah.
Galen was really captured a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk about a long time ago. Can we talk about the Tarkin massacre? So,
yeah. That was.
I didn't really think that was going to happen that way. Like, I thought the Gorman massacre and that Tarkin massacre were almost one and the same. But they said 16 years ago. So 16 years ago on this planet of Gorman, 500 innocent pedestrians all died to Tarkin literally landing his ship on them, which is crazy. So these people on Gorman are pretty much like, we don't like the Empire already. So it's pretty much the perfect place to have this rebellion grow because of that already happening. So many of the people there remember that event, and there's this big monument in the middle of the city and all that stuff. So it makes it almost the perfect place to have this rebellion go down, especially with another massacre. These people aren't going to be very happy about it after Tarkin literally landed his shuttle on people. Like, that's crazy.
Right. And then they're building the building right next to it.
Yes.
Now, they keep saying they think it's like an armory or whatever. Is that confirmed, or like, is there a chance that it has something to do with the mining?
So it is an armory, because that was the plan from the last batch. The guy was like, we're building an armory there. We're starting it out. But they don't know for sure.
Well,
they are building the mines, but like,
yeah,
the guy was like, well, I'm building an armory in the middle of the town in Palmo?
Yeah.
In Palmo. And the ISB guy's like, really? Who knows this? He's like, oh, don't tell anybody. And the thing that sucks about all this stuff is the Gormans are so late and so, as Cassian would say, like rushing so hard that they know, but they have no evidence whatsoever.
Yeah. So it's definitely an armory, but I think, like Nick said, that was set up in the first episode of the season. What they're going to do with that armory is pretty much take over the entire planet. Like, they just want to rule with an iron fist, as they usually do. But because the end goal is the calcite, the material in the planet that they need. So that's the goal for the Empire. They don't care. They want the rebellion so that they can pretty much extinguish it right away and then just rule this place, because they might even destroy the planet if they mine too much of this. So that's sort of the end goal. And this year we see in these 3 episodes that they're building the armory. Next year, that armory is going to be finished. It's all going to be ready and done. But also the rebellion will be a year older on Gorman, because those guys clearly didn't know what they were doing. Cassian in episode 5 goes in and he's like, yeah, these guys are dumb. They, like Nick said, they're rushing. They don't have enough time. They've never done this before. They're really out of their arena here. Yeah. So that's what was great, honestly, about episode 5 was Cassian doing the Luthen impression and switching back and forth between voices and like Derek was saying. But he was pretty much like, these Gormans, they don't know what they're doing, and we can't help them. Val and Sid to try to help them because Cassian says no, but we're going to see those Gormans a year later, and a year more of being rebels, and a year more of learning from Luthen. And I don't know if Val will stay after Cinta dying, but that whole,
Or if nothing else, just being as a population a lot more vocal about it.
Yeah, because they got the stuff. They got what they wanted, which they were going to tell the public that they're making an armory.
Yeah.
So how does that, like, we have a year later. So they're going to tell the people that there's an armory. I'm guessing when we meet back up, that couple people that are protesting in the middle of the courtyard, it's going to turn into thousands of people. So a year later, it's going to be a lot bigger. People are going to know that it's now an armory. They're going to be protesting the Empire day in and day out until they all get slaughtered.
Yeah.
It's craziness.
But it also sets off, as they'll be a year older, the Empire will be a year ahead. So will the propaganda. Like, see, look at these people. We're just trying to do business, be a good empire, and they're crazy. So, like, even more that Mon Mothma will have on her plate to convince literally the whole rest of the galaxy that
which no one's, it's
wrong.
not working.
Yeah, no one's gonna believe her.
No one's buying it. The only one that I remotely see like starting to feed into it is her husband.
Yeah, kind of. Perrin's gone on quite the twist this season.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, I don't feel like he's gonna sell her out at this point. If anything, I feel like something's gonna happen and gain his sympathy.
Yeah. To your point, Derek, from last time, you were like, dude, Perrin's turning around. He defended her in front of Krennic.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not
that whole scene, she went hard.
Yeah, that was a crazy scene.
Yeah.
It was like, I mentioned it before, but it's like in Star Wars, we have lightsaber battles. We have blaster battles. That's like a battle of just words. It's Krennic versus Mon Mothma in the same room, but they're not fighting. They're not blasting each other or trying to kill each other, but it's a battle of words. It's pretty awesome.
Well, and I think that's the whole attraction to this whole series, because we don't have the Skywalkers, we don't have the lightsabers. We're able to have, Luthen and Clea go at it, and have all these actors, and have Krennic and Mon go at it or whatever. But I think it was just fantastic, the acting and the people that they picked to put in these roles, whether it's for 2 seconds or it's one of the main actors. I think they're doing a fantastic job with this stuff and in the acting, because that's where it brings out the emotions in all of us, I think, as well, when we're watching these and these people are getting upset with each other, or they're feeling that heartache towards whoever, because again, you're building on, you have 2 relationships still, or maybe 3, but you have Bix and Cassian, which is probably going to not last much longer. But you also had Cinta and Val, which is no longer going on, and now you have Dedra and Cyril. So it'll be interesting to see how these other ones continue on, because I think that will be a big breaking point for Cassian. He's already at that point, but when Bix dies, if she dies, I think that's when he's going to turn into and talk about, like he does in Rogue One, like you have no idea. I've been doing this since I was 6 years old, and I have nobody. I've lost everything. Yeah.
And so Andre just commented, big point at kind of what you just said, Ron, is how these characters convey it. Mon and Krennic are both having this discourse about history, views, sort of ideology. Mon's holding the biggest kept secret in the galaxy. Krennic's keeping the biggest kept secret in the galaxy. That completely turns the entire world upside down both ways.
Yeah.
Mon is the future leader of the thing that's going to restore, the Republic. Krennic's working on the thing that's going to pacify the entire galaxy. Yeah. And they think they're coming at each other like, you have no idea what I have, having no idea what the other has. Yeah. It's And the only way that comes across as crazy as it is, or as it does, is what you just said, Ron, because they're delivering it with like, you just feel it. You think something's going to pop off, even though they're just talking, you know?
Yeah, and that may be the last time that those two are really ever in the same room again, too.
Mm.
Like those two characters don't interact all that often, especially in the same room at the same party, because they're enemies. So yeah, that might be like that's sort of the battle before the battle, like the big battle. Yeah.
Also, I have a gripe
Let's hear
about this, about one of these episodes. Ron and I talked during Revenge of the Sith at the theater. I was pointing at some people at the opera scene, like, oh, do you think that's going to be the stand-in in the Senate chamber, or do you think this guy's going to be, or she's going to be? And then it was some ugly fish man,
The Oath Keeper.
yeah, who's doing the Pledge of Allegiance for everybody, and Mon Mothma leaves. So
That was very strange because it was pretty much injected in there. And I get obviously it's showing that the Empire is like making all these people make these oaths all the time and be loyal to the Empire. But it was sort of just a random scene. Like it was very quick. She leaves and then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I think, like you had pointed out in the recap that you did, she gets so pissed.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's just building up and up and up for her. Where I think me and Derek were talking a little bit beforehand. What's going to happen to her family? Okay, we don't ever see them. So either they're gone, they die, or she just separates herself from them. So is her husband going to make it, or is he? Hey, I'm out, because again, he sort of turned for us. After the speech, they're sort of getting along a little bit better now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because again, she's getting to the point where she's pretty much all in as well. Where it's like, I have no family, F the Empire, I'm out of here. This monster, as we know, is coming.
Well,
so she's gonna get
in at most 2 years' time, where Mon Mothma, like the stage of this whole thing is at, they are completely lost from everybody, even the entire Imperial war machine. So even if her family's still around, she's eventually going to at least have to make the sacrifice of, I am never going to see them again, and they are never going to know how to find me. Because by the time they're on Yavin 4, like Vader's ripping a ship apart trying to find out where they are. Nobody knows where they are. So
her family will be very interesting to see, especially now that Perrin has sort of become more of a likable character. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, sorry. Going back to the Oath Keeper, we will be back in that room. Like we know, she goes, the monster will come for us all. So that will happen maybe next week, maybe actually most likely next week, because she has to leave Coruscant. So we'll get more of that Senate, and maybe somebody else will be in the middle, not just the Oath Keeper anymore. So hopefully we can hold out hope that like Masamita will be there, or if we're lucky, Palpatine. But I seriously doubt it. The amount of mentions of Palpatine, it's like 3 an episode, like every single time. Anybody that's an Imperial mentions Palpatine pretty much every single time. We talked about all these different meetings. Krennic just came from a meeting with Palpatine. Partagas is going to a meeting with Palpatine. Like they're always talking to Palpatine, but we never really see him. And honestly, that makes me think that we might not ever see him. But you can feel the pull of Palpatine, even though he's not there. So even if he's not in that Senate scene, it would be still kind of cool to see Masamita. That would be I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we kind of go ahead.
Go ahead, Derek. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing we kind of passed is about them talking about. I think it was Lonnie that was one that brought it up about them arresting too many people.
Yes.
And so they can't even interrogate him. But it was pretty genius of how he slid that in there, and he got the respect of is it I'm looking at my list, Lagrit or Legray.
Yeah.
I don't know how you say it. Anyways, the other guy, he's like, yeah, you're totally right. And then it's like everybody's like, yeah, we can't do our job because we have too many people. And I'm like, he just gave them some cover.
But to your point, Derek, I didn't even think about it. That's why they have to kill Gorst.
Yep.
Because Gorst was the solution to that problem. Oh man, we can interrogate all these people, and Lonnie's going to be like, "Bro, we got to kill this guy because we're log jammed right now." I didn't even think of that.
the funny part is too, it's not let's stop arresting so many people. He says, I'm gonna go have a meeting with Palpatine where we're gonna figure out how to make it easier to interrogate more people. We're not gonna
And
stop arresting
we'll
them.
probably
We're gonna
arrest more.
we'll arrest more and figure out how to process even more instead.
One thing that was kind of a throwaway thing, but I think in some way, and I haven't figured it out yet, is a way to demonstrate how far off the Gormans are, is the whole like the ISB is a shadow government. And I really don't think even Palpatine probably has no idea what they're doing here. It's like that guy is the shadow government. But it feels so real to like they're reeling and don't know what's going on. Like, do people know the ISB is doing this while it's happening everywhere?
Yeah.
Everywhere to everybody. And I wonder where they go with that, because like, that could be a problem for the higher ups, for them to like make an appeal to the Emperor somehow or something. And kind of like in Bad Batch when Rampart gets thrown on, thrown away and he has to like save face. The massacre could clean it all up, so however that ramps up, insurgency, we wiped it out, security first, and
somebody has to take the blame for the Gorman massacre. That's sort of the big deal. Or I guess take the blame or take the reward, I guess. And Krennic, obviously, we have that scene where Krennic is interrogating Dedra on one of the trailers. So what's going on there? We don't really know, but that's on Coruscant. And like, there's so much going on with that. Like, who takes the credit? What happens with the people who take the credit for the Gorman massacre? It's all going to be very, very interesting. Yeah, for sure. I want to bring up, just because I'm going to forget, at the end of episode 4, like the very end, when Cassian's going to leave to go to Gorman, at the beginning of episode 5, him and Bix share this moment, and somebody brought this up in my chat, and it was like the craziest thing. When they're doing that thing with their hands, remember they put their hands up to each other and they're like tracing stuff? Cassian traces, I don't know if Bix does too, but Cassian traces the rebellion sign. He goes like the swoop and then down the middle, like it's the exact sign of the rebellion. And I was like, yeah, that's just such a cool little like Easter egg, because I didn't notice that at all, but somebody caught it. Like he's just tracing the sign of the rebellion. It was pretty cool.
Or the Andor symbol, which is the same thing.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah, we definitely had some interesting things going on with relationships these 3 episodes. Reference to all those relationships that we had in this one. And I think that the Bix and Cassian one is obviously getting stronger, and especially with him showing up, to Luthen's place. So he's obviously protecting her, and he protected her, supposedly killing this, Imperial person when they were on that mission, and that she was so, upset about. But again, same with Luthen, or I mean with Cyril.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the two of them. This was just I thought it was a weird, thing. And I know Mike likes this. It's just so weird the way their relationship is. But I think
she even like him?
Using him. She's using him, just like a spy movie. I don't think she has any feelings for him. I think she's just putting up with him.
Yeah, that's why she said, turn out the lights. You have an hour.
Right.
You have an hour here. Turn out the lights.
Well,
but he might turn, but I'm not positive. I do think, like you guys were saying at the beginning, I think that he will possibly see like, oh, I was just trying to do the right thing here, and now you guys are just killing all these people for no reason. Or maybe you should have killed these people, but not all these other innocent people over here. So I think that he might have a second thought, but I don't know if he'll join the rebellion.
Yeah, the whole relationship is very strange. I actually saw a very cool interview with I think her name's Denise, who plays Dedra. She was saying that she was like almost studying how serial killers, female serial killers in particular, use other people while males don't. So she was like seeing it as she's using Cyril to do her own bidding so that she doesn't have to do the dirty work type deal. I was like, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, their whole relationship is so weird. It's like obviously on purpose. Like in the interviews, they're talking about how weird could we go. Like in these scenes, we're looking at each other and we're like staring at each other. So it is spot on, but it's very weird. Yeah.
And they're also in a weird way, like Cyril's living it up, but Dedra, for some reason, it feels like sees him as competition now.
Yeah.
Like, great work, Cyril, says her boss.
Yeah.
And he's not at all her competition. They're going to discard him immediately. And well, if this all goes how they want it to, right? But I agree, Ron. I think he'll spot it too late. I think he'll spot the right and wrong too late, and he'll break. I don't know if Cyril has the emotional capacity to care about the people he's making friends with on Gordon, because he obviously doesn't now. But I think he'll break, but it won't influence the events. I think it'll be like,
Well, that's why I said him breaking could be just as simple as like reprogramming a droid like K2SO.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty wild.
I feel like Willman's more equipped to do that.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. Yeah, and that would be pretty cool because Willman's probably going to die too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, but I also think that possibly Cassian could do it with the help of Luthen. But I think Cassian is learning so much, like you were talking about earlier, Mike. Just the whole, teaching him how to be an actor in these things. When he goes into the hotel and he goes in as this, what was it, Sky something. But he's learning how to do all these different things. He's learning how to fly this ship that he had no idea how to fly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be interesting to see if he's the one that reprograms him or if it is somebody else in that, in the group here.
Yeah, that's what's really cool about these 3 episodes too, is Cassian's not really going on a mission where he has to go kill a bunch of people or go steal money or go do like the usual missions he's been doing. He's just going to Gorman just to check it out. Like he's just going as Luthen just to sort of like observe, like he's just pretending to be somebody else. So we're getting to see him, like you said, almost trained to become the guy we see in Rogue One. Like he still has a lot to learn.
And he's kind of poetically like observing his former self. Yeah. And they're like, I don't remember what they say to him. He's like, "Oh, you mean have I stolen something before?"
Yeah.
When that was like his whole gig last time, like last season.
That's true.
But
I want to talk about the opening of episode 5, where it's the first time ever that the opening isn't just the intro; it's the sort of clicking in and out of Clea and her switchboard.
Yeah.
When she's clicking in and out, it like says the planet that she's listening, or the place that she's listening to. Like when she's listening to Davos's collection room, it says Skaldin or whatever. But before that, she tunes into one that says Ryloth, and one that says Corellia, I think, and maybe one more, I forget. But do
definitely
they
notice Corellia too?
Yeah, do they have like are those things that she planted or that Luthen and her planted on artifacts on those planets that they just sold to people so that they can sort of have the inn? Like is this whole gallery thing just to plant bugs in all these different places so that they can know everything?
Well, they have a Ryloth piece in the shop. Are they just doing a Yankee swap? And I don't know. But these are all places Ryloth. Yeah.
Well, what if, and we're always talking about like what Luthen's backstory is, why does he have all this stuff from Naboo? What if he's, and this sounds crazy, but what if he's gearing up all just Nubian things because he wants to get the one guy who he knows is from Naboo, and that is Palpatine, to come to his gallery so that he can place something Nubian in his care with a bug in it? Like, what if he just has all these Padme things and Gungan shields to remind Palpatine, if he ever ventures to his gallery, remind Palpatine of home so that he buys that and he can bug Palpatine? Like that, obviously that sounds very far-fetched, but it's pretty crazy.
It could be a nice cover too, to be like, the home of our emperor. Like, I got all this stuff. All you Palpatine fans, I got stuff from his home planet.
Well, Luthen's backstory still is yet to be revealed. We're halfway through the season, and Tony Gilroy has said that will be a big deal. And it obviously will, because people have been predicting he might be a Jedi for like years, which I don't think he is, but
he's a Sith.
I don't know about that either. I don't think he has any Force abilities because I don't know. I just
You would have used him by now, I think.
Yeah.
We would have seen something. And I also was looking because I watched the first 3 again just before 4, 5, and 6 came out. But and I was looking for that thing you were talking about last week where Kayla walks into the room and somebody thinks that she uses the Force to turn on the light.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that. I watched it
I
about 3 times. I rewound it and watched it a few times. I didn't see
I
where
didn't
that
even
came
check.
from, which I thought would have been cool.
I
think
checked
would've
and
been
it
neat,
didn't
but
look anything like that to me.
I didn't see that. Is there anything else we have with one? Because I know I definitely want to get into the character that we have that we've seen, but now it's a new actor, and I know Mike wants to talk about that as well.
Yes. So, I mean,
I feel the same way.
it's very weird because Tony Gilroy just came out sort of while I was asleep, and he said the reason we did that is because he's going to be a big character moving forward, like for the rest of the season. So this was our introduction to him so that fans can almost get this over and done with. This is Bail Organa now. Deal with it because he's going to be a main character moving forward.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because if you were going to recast Bail Organa just for one scene where they just say hello and goodbye, that wouldn't make any sense. So he has to play a big role moving forward. I really don't get it. I'm not the biggest fan of I'm not the biggest follower, let's say, of Jimmy Smits. I don't know what he's up to, but could we really not get him? He came back for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. He came back for Rogue One. Like I want maybe scheduling conflicts, whatever. But really, we couldn't get couldn't find a weekend. Couldn't find.
Yeah, I saw an article that he had put out too that says we really tried hard to, but the schedules wouldn't work out, and I'm like, come on, it's Disney money.
Yeah, you can pay him anything.
Even that, like, we'll see. Maybe we'll eat our words later. I doubt it, but
you'll get the original in the next episode.
Yeah. but like, I could at least maybe, like, we all probably are wondering how it plays out because you need a big name character to pull all this to the rebellion on Yavin 4. But I feel like if you can't get Jimmy Smits, who's only ever played that in the same era, then couldn't you just like name drop Organa and just use some other guy for these scenes?
But I think that's why, and I'm sort of pulling up Jimmy Smits on my other screen.
The guy who plays General Tordana, the white beard guy.
Well, here we go. I found it.
Okay.
In Entertainment Weekly said once they could not land Smits, when they could not land him, Team Andor had to move to Plan B, a plan that was hatched by Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. The idea for Benjamin.
Yeah, so
maybe he'll kick ass at it. I don't know, but
I don't even. That's not the point.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, what I don't really understand is, I mean, Bail Organa is such a key piece to the rebellion. We know that he's like from Revenge of the Sith onward. He's such a big piece, and that eventually leads into Leia being the big piece.
Mm-hmm.
Is this really to, I guess, involve Leia? Bail Organa's not going to, let's put it this way. Bail Organa's not going to be at the Gorman Massacre. He's not going to be at these events. So if he's going to be involved heavily in the next 6 episodes, because that's why they just give us the slight introduction in the 6th episode, if he's going to be very big part, that means we're spending a lot of time on Coruscant. And then when we get to Yavin, he's going to be there. But that could also lead to his daughter being there. It could also lead to, it could lead to more things, and maybe Bail Organa is sort of the stepping stone. I don't know. I've never been a fan of recasts, even with Luke, Leia, Han. I've never been a fan of recast. I love Luke in the Book of Boba Fett. I love Luke in The Mandalorian and The Mandalorian season 2. I know some people don't like it. They're like, oh, it's fake, whatever. I like it. I like Anakin in Ahsoka, which, by the way, I got some crap for that. Hayden Christensen is deepfaked in that show. Like, people are like, no, he's not. Like, yes, he is. He's playing. He's 45 playing 20. He's deepfaked. But yeah, I've never been a big fan of the recast, even with Baylan Skoll, which is a whole nother situation. Like, it's different with every character,
right?
But even with Baylan Skoll, it took me a while. and I'm still coming around to it. But when we saw that concept art, or I guess the actual picture
Pictures.
of Rory as Balin, it looked great, and that gave me a little bit of confidence. He looks like Ray Stevenson. That's a big thing. This guy, I guess he looks like Bail Organa to an extent, but Bail Organa, Jimmy Smits has a very specific look to him.
Mhm.
And this guy is not that. And it's very strange when you have him in Rogue One looking like Jimmy Smits. You have him in Kenobi looking like Jimmy Smits. And now you're going to have this middle piece where he doesn't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
You've had recasts before. Anakin, Obi-Wan, characters, of course, 20, 30 years younger.
But you're in the same timeline.
Yeah.
And it works, but right now you're years apart from the same character looking very, very, very different.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the issue that I'm having with it. I mean, maybe he has a great arc in these next 6 episodes, and I'm like, yeah, give me more Bail Organa as this random dude. But I don't know.
Well,
I had-
so further in that article, they said I put him in episode 6 in an arbitrary way so people will get the conversation out of the way until next week when he really starts to work, which
That's
I
what I
can
saw.
respect it. Like, of course, we don't know the behind the scenes of whether it's a scheduling thing, whether it's a personality thing. I'm sure it's probably scheduling. But even still, it's like we have to do this. This is our storyline. He has to be in here, and we can't get the guy.
Yeah, so pretty
You have
much
to be there.
I'm seeing this thing right here, Tony Gilroy's screen rant interview. It was really hard to bring legacy characters back for a whole variety of reasons, money and scheduling. I mean, Jimmy Smits, wasn't available. It didn't work out. He was doing his own he was doing his other show, and we were under the gun, and they couldn't work it out. They just couldn't work it out. Believe me, we really tried, but it couldn't happen.
I would have rather waited a few months for the show.
I mean, we did wait an extra year, but now, what's weird to me is that when I look past what we just watched into the last 6 episodes, I didn't really imagine, because the Gorman Massacre is going to be a big deal and whatever, I didn't really imagine Bail Organa being that big of a role. He's clearly such a big role that they have to recast the guy. I feel like after a while, if you were like, I can't get Jimmy, let's maybe rewrite it or figure a way around it or do something. But he's got such an integral part of the remaining story that they had to recast him. So that, to me, honestly gets me excited. I don't know if I'm ever going to get past the fact that he doesn't look like Bail Organa, but I think what they have in store, what they have planned for the story involving a character like Bail Organa leads to, we know Admiral Raddus will be in it, and like more familiar faces, not just Bail Organa.
And I guess as you're saying that, the fact that they're between the sacrifice of whatever they had written and casting, that they sacrificed the casting is probably a good idea.
Exactly. I mean, we talk about how great the writing for Andor is. What's more important here? Like the writing that could be incredible and a story that could be incredible, or the fact that they had to recast Bail Organa? Because if we're being honest, Bail Organa's not Luke Skywalker. He's not he's not a main character in Star Wars, but it is still a very weird thing. Yeah.
He's a big cog in the whole machine.
Yeah.
He has to be there.
The argument too can be made that, well, Mon Mothma was recast, and Mon Mothma is a main character of this
she
show.
looks exactly like her.
She looks exactly like her.
Right. Well, and my thing with all that, whether we're talking about, I had a very, very hard time with Solo. I love it. I thought it was a great movie, but the person that they had play Han, he didn't do it for me. He looked okay. Yeah. But I just thought they could have done it. They could have found somebody else, I thought, that maybe represented Harrison Ford a little bit.
He was a little too energetic.
Yeah. So
here's it was a great movie, and I liked it. So I'm not taking anything away from that actor. And they needed somebody in there, and like you said, and there's been so much stuff since the prequels came out with Obi-Wan and with Alec Guinness and I can't even think of his name.
McGregor.
Yeah, thank you. There was so much. Oh, well, he was only there for 20 years and he looks like he aged 40. It is what it is. So again, I'm not thrilled with this concept or this person change, but he has to be in this story. They couldn't get Jimmy, which sucks, but
Yeah.
we still have to go on with this. And I think that, like you said, Mike, that this is his writing is going to make up for it. We hope.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
defend Obi-Wan and Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor real quick.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's what, like 58 when Luke and him meet up in A New Hope, canon wise.
Yes.
Alec Guinness was like 61 or 62 when they filmed that. And so at this point, we're dealing with like people back then just looked a lot older.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Also, the two sons on Tatooine.
yeah, and all that. And so, like, you know, that I remember hearing there's at least like a 20-year difference between, and you look it up and it's like, dude, the dude was like 3 or 4 years off. That's nothing today,
Yeah,
like
no.
appearance wise.
Oh,
We're getting off track. Sorry, but I just
No,
wanted
going back to Alden in the Solo movie, Alden Ehrenreich. I liked Alden. I'm not gonna lie. It was about 20-ish or 15 years, whatever it is, before the original trilogy. So it's much like Ewan McGregor being recast as Obi-Wan. It's a very, very, very younger version of the character. So I feel the connection because it's a way younger version of the character. The weird thing is, when you look at the Mandoverse, and it's very likely that Luke, Leia, and Han will play some role in this whole Thrawn stuff. Whether it's a small role or big role, who knows? But the question becomes, do you recast or deepfake Han Solo, or do you just bring back Alden to play Han Solo? And I think the resounding answer would be deepfake, because a lot of people didn't like Alden as Solo, but now you're going to have him be young Solo and older Solo. So now you're going to bounce back and forth between Harrison Ford and him, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the Lando movie, obviously, we have two different Landos now, and the Lando movie is going to take place at some point, maybe within the original trilogy, and now you're going to have two very different looking Landos. So now with Star Wars becoming 50 years old and you're trying to tell stories around the original trilogy, you're going to come into this problem more and more. And it's not going to be a scheduling conflict. It's going to be a conflict of that actor either is past or is too old to play the role anymore. So I don't know. The Bail Organa thing might just be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to future storytelling with these characters in this timeline, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of positive about it. Let's say that. I haven't seen any really like this ruined the show for me though. Like it's not like end under the world type deal.
No.
Well, I'm glad.
Like I said, even with the Solo thing, it didn't ruin the story for me. And yes, I know it was a younger version. The actor wouldn't have been my pick, but I think that I think I trust Tony, and hopefully he'll make this all work out for us, and it won't be that big. But you have to have Bal in that. And I was telling Nick yesterday when we were watching Revenge of the Sith, at that point when Jimmy comes up to Coruscant and he's asking what's going on, and they're like, you need to leave, and all of a sudden he sees the Jedi get attacked by all the stormtroopers or the clone troopers. I was like, that right there is when Jimmy was like, I'm done. I'm gonna start, if he hadn't already, which I'm sure he did a little bit, but once he saw that was the click in his brain. He was like, no, this is wrong.
It would have been cool if the deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith was actually in the movie. Have you ever seen that with the?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of them. The one where they're talking about, we're gonna form a little group, and they're like, a rebellion? No.
Yeah.
And
like a separatist.
And it's before
the
Order 66 happens, and it would have made, because like that's a perfect description of what's happening with him, Ron, and it would have hit even harder if you already see him talking about, I don't like where this is going,
right?
And then he sees it. Mike, I'm glad you brought up that Tony has said something about Bail Organa. I did not know that, because when I watched it, I was like, what the hell was the point of that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Why even do it?
When I was making my breakdown videos all night, I was like, this is so dumb. Why did they do this? Why did they do this? Why did they do this? That he literally just says hello and goodbye. That's it. So once that article came out and Tony was like, we got a lot more Bail coming, I was like, okay, that makes sense. A little bit of relief off the shoulders. But it's really impossible to me to introduce and make a character like Bail so important in this back half of season 2 of Andor, which only takes place 1 and 2 years before Rogue One, to not include the 18/19-year-old Princess Leia. Like, she's so relevant to the rebellion, so relevant to Yavin 4 and Bail Organa.
Well known. Well
exactly.
known.
Well known. Very well known. On Coruscant, in the Senate, all that stuff. So I feel like maybe this is our way to get to Leia, and you have to have Bail to get to Leia. So they had to recast Bail to get to Leia. I don't know. Could they have recasted Leia? I hope not, but we'll figure it out as we go, I guess.
As long as she's not
Well,
floating in
that's what they
space,
do.
that's fine.
I mean, they've done a deep.
If it's
they've
deep
done a
faked
deep
and she's
fake
floating in
already,
space, I'll be
right?
okay with it.
Yeah, they did it in Rogue One.
Right.
Yes, they did it in
Yeah.
Rogue One, and Rogue One was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that too, is the deepfake technology gets so much better literally every single year. And the last time we saw it really get used like it will be used on Leia, because with Hayden, he's only 40 and he's going down to 20. So you deepfake him, but it's not that drastic. When you're deepfaking an 80-year-old or 70-year-old Mark Hamill to a 20-year-old Mark Hamill, that's a little bit different. Same thing can be said about Leia. You're taking archival footage to create Leia. They did it in 2016 very well. Some people kind of give their hatred on that in the Tarkin stuff too. But 10 years later, the technology is so much better that it could look just ultra realistic.
And you know what? The complaints on it are complete bullshit to me. It looked so good for literally it being like one of the first times it had ever been used.
Yes.
Are you kidding? Like,
yes.
Tarkin looked
and it did not
great.
make me mad at all.
No.
Not at all.
See, that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like I feel like if they just do it,
yeah,
and people know it's a deep fake, it's fine.
Yeah.
But but just make the story great.
Yeah.
What I don't get about the whole well, honestly, let me ask you guys. I always say, because George Lucas went back and changed the original trilogy multiple times. Obviously, he makes those big changes in like 2004 or something around that time. But he's changed it multiple times, where like there's a 1996 release and then a 2004 release and a 2011 release, that they all have slight differences and some bigger than others, whatever. Han Choppers, of course. But he always talks about how he wanted to fix those movies. So the ones on Disney Plus are the fixed ones that he thought were more like the vision that he had. Do you think that Disney will ever go back and just fix up these deepfakes? Like, they have the ability to make them look better. Why not just, I don't know, spend a little time to make Tarkin look better in Rogue One, make Luke look better in The Mandalorian Season 2? Because you have Luke look so much better in the Book of Boba Fett just a year later. So why not just...
The current state of Disney, absolutely not, especially me being a Disney aficionado, because Lucasfilm and George Lucas will do that to make his product better.
Yeah.
Disney doesn't care. They've already made their money. They're not going to go back on it unless they figure out a way to go back on it and make them millions of dollars.
Well, the argument could be made. I mean, hey, you could re-release into theaters and make millions. No, but the argument could be made that, like, George Lucas, A New Hope, so much of that, like probably 80% of that, is still original movie. It's probably way more, actually, but it's still original movie. It's still the same thing that you saw, just enhanced for like 4K and stuff. So you're watching the same movie. So that still holds up. It's almost like we didn't go back and recreate the explosions and the special effects in 1977. We just changed some scenes to make the story work a little better. They did change some, yeah. They added some special effects and whatever. But for the most part, they didn't change everything. So you don't really have to go back and change stuff too. And the only thing I would say you should go back and change is just the deepfakes. You can fix them up a little bit, but I guess
I think people on YouTube have done it enough for them.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And that's the other thing, is like, you've got some of those guys that are so good.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Bring them in. Like, what?
Did.
That's a whole.
I like Andre's comment. Like, for what they're doing with Revenge of the Sith, what they'll end up doing with every movie, they could re-release it. I'm not sure like what technologies in theaters exist anymore, or like if they even care generally to like make a new like, what else are you gonna do? It already looks awesome, but I think if they do a 10th anniversary release, like Andre just said in our comments, of Rogue One, good opportunity to do it. I agree
Yeah.
with you, Derek. Like, why hire someone to do it?
Yeah. I
if-
think
if
great
it already-
opportunity, but
Because if I was in the office, I would be like, dude, Tarkin looks good. People get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think he looks good. I think Leia looks good.
and
Why-
they've got
why-
some recent big bomb in the box office, like big bombs. So
Yeah.
like
That's true.
they are being very conservative right now.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
pulling the plug on all the live action stuff. So like that's where the Disney fan in me is like, they're not
Yeah.
gonna do any extra.
Well, I will say, Rogue One in particular, where some people have those complaints about Tarkin. I think he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But Rogue One visually is like one of the best Star Wars projects ever.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
there's not much to complain about anyway.
Right.
You watch Revenge of the Sith, near and
Yeah.
dear to my heart, just like you, Mike.
Yeah.
Here we are 20 years later. And I was telling Ron while we were watching it, maybe did I tell you this, Ron? I definitely told Madeline. But there are some very, very funky 2005 let's try it special effects in Revenge of the Sith that don't
Yeah.
work.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then the very next frame is like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's impossible to me that it was 20 years ago because it's better than a lot of things now.
Oh yeah.
And you're
Actually,
just going to have that. Why would you go back and make like the
Yeah.
bridge falling on Obi-Wan and his body awkwardly photoshops
Yes.
over to the right? Like, why would you go change that? Or why,
Yeah.
all those little things.
I didn't realize until I watched the second season of Light and Magic on Disney Plus that George Lucas is the reason that we have digital cameras.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
He's
Like I
the-
knew because they did so much stuff. Which, if you guys have not watched that
Yeah.
with Ahmed Best,
And-
I cried.
And
Oh,
Jar
my-
Jar Binks is the reason we have motion capture.
yes.
You know,
I mean, George
And-
Lucas is the reason we have so much in the film
Yeah.
industry, but it's really crazy. Going back to your point though, yeah, when I'm watching Revenge of the Sith in the theaters, I was like, this is 20 years ago. Like, this is so much better than some of the CGI even now. But yes, there was those scenes where it was like, okay, that's a little shaky, but then the next scene, it's just unbelievable, looking at least.
And
That's
we would.
what-
Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
yeah, that's what's the best part about Star Wars being made right now is we're watching Andor. We just talked about Rogue One. It's visually just so good, and like the technology now has gotten to the point where it's so realistic and looks so visually appealing, and that's, I mean, Andor is proving that currently as we speak. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I'll one up you because I think if you go watch some of these dog fights in 4, 5, and 6, it still looks amazing, and that's
Yeah.
almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, not everything, and yes, when we're talking about the actors and they're talking, yes, you can definitely see the difference. But when they're doing those dog fights and some of those space scenes, it's just like what it looks like today.
Mhm.
And I think that's fantastic. Again, when we have the opening of Revenge of the Sith and we got the whole Coruscant and everything going on, it's a lot different than back in 77 or 80.
Mhm.
But some of that stuff is just so good, and we have George just to thank
Well,
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ron,
Right,
you're
that's
absolutely
right,
right because
alien.
sometimes those physical sets and those prop sets were better than a lot of the green screen stuff,
Yeah.
even from the prequels.
Yeah.
And this is way off course, but I just saw a thing on YouTube, and it's about a year old, where they discovered why Mary Poppins looked so good, and Disney made this like crystal, and you didn't have to have any keyframing, and so they were doing this, and then the technology got lost. Like, it cost so much
Huh.
to make the crystal, so then these guys remade it, and they had done some Star Wars scenes from the prequels where they did it, and it was like, why are we not funding this? So that's where, like, now where we've got like the Mandalorian and using the Void and using Unreal Engine is changing the game yet again.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, and going back to what Ron was saying, the cool part about George making the originals the way that he did is you hear like Jude Law talk about when he was talking about Skeleton Crew. There's rules when it comes to making Star Wars so that everything feels like the original trilogy in the way that they film it. Like
Mhm.
you never pass through the windshield of a ship like there's just certain things that you have to follow in terms of just visually showing Star Wars so that it feels all connected in the same universe. And that's what always keeps it connected to the original stuff. Which
on
is,
a similar but different note, this re-release of Revenge of the Sith has been kind of entertaining to watch on social media as well. Because when I've noticed for years some of these little things where I go like when people make gripes about how hyper specific George Lucas was about stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's not true. I mean, go check out our interview with James Lucino.
Yeah.
Couldn't be further from the truth
Like,
about
meh.
Yeah,
he didn't
okay.
nitpick things the way we do on these podcasts. And Revenge of the Sith is always the place to cite because for years it used to bother me. There are so many, especially with lightsaber hilts, just throw away like
Oh,
they
yeah.
just digitally threw some hilts into Grievous's hands and they happen to be all Obi-Wan's and Anakin's hilts. They happen to accidentally have, Obi-Wan with Anakin's hilt in his hand. Frame goes here, frame, he has his in his hand. He hasn't changed doing anything. Palpatine's entire fight with Windu was filmed and written differently, and they changed it the day of.
Yep.
So Palpatine has Anakin's lightsaber. There's a huge discrepancy in the fight. They had to train Ian McDiarmid on the day. All of these things that were, like Derek just said, that he just went in and just made a movie, and, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and so I think to circle it all the way back to, I hope by the end of Andor, the Bail Organa thing is just I would have loved.
I'm already kind of over it. I think they were right with like giving us this space for a week to whine and cry about it.
Yeah,
and like I'm honestly like we've done this, and I'm kind of over it already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I'm just ready to see what they got.
Well, what's funny too is, we talk about how when you watch the original trilogy, you got like stormtroopers hitting their heads on doors and all these mistakes that have sort of become funny and like little Easter eggs and stuff. And the weird part about it, and sort of very off topic, but is the Star Wars fandom, like if that happened today, it would be the end of the world.
Oh
my God, you made this huge do you see this mistake in the new project from Star Wars? Like it would be the end of the world.
Yeah, the jeans guy.
But now it's now it's genius because it's George Lucas.
Good point, Derek. Jeans guy made it in. They edited him out the next day.
Yes.
So good point. They can do it.
Yes.
It's a great Halloween costume, by the way.
Yeah.
How about we go back to the prequels and the originals too? Like the visual effects people, they just did fun stuff. Like in the opening scene of Revenge of the Sith, there's like just random kitchen sink flying by in the background, or like in the asteroid belt for the original trilogy, they use like potatoes for asteroids and just random stuff like a shoe or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch Revenge of the Sith really closely, because I just make all these hidden detail videos, whatever. When Grievous, the whole hello there scene, when Obi-Wan jumps down, he takes out his lightsabers, and when he's taking out his lightsabers, and all four arms sort of detach, and he ignites the lightsabers, there's two battle droids behind him, and one like shoves the other one, and he's like, check this out. It's like they just throw in these random little cool details all the time. It's just so
one
fun.
of them's like looking over here, and he like nudges him, and they both look over.
That's awesome. So well, Nick showed me that, and I had never seen it, and I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen Revenge of the Sith, that when who's coming in to,
it's after they rescue the Chancellor and they're coming in, and if you will look down, and he showed me Millennium Falcon is coming in, and I didn't know that, which I thought which was really cool. So
they just throw in fun stuff like that all the time.
Well, I mean, I thought the very last scene in Andor was super fun. It was like the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was,
yeah.
They're all smiling.
We talk about that too. Like there's Easter eggs all like Lucasfilm continues to do this all the time. Like Luthen's gallery is full of these. Like it's just fun they know how to tell a great story just for people who want to see just a good TV show or whatever. And then for the hardcore fans, they throw in these funny little Easter eggs or cool little Easter eggs or little things, whatever. It's just the genius of Star Wars. It has been there since '77, but it's just time and time again. And when we look back at those prequels and originals, we think of them as so like great and how they're so different from all the rest. Like the stuff that's happening now is it's the same. They've taken the blueprint, they've taken the format, and they're creating it into new stories. It's all still background stuff going on. There's still all the same stuff that Lucasfilm is throwing. It's the same. A lot of the Lucasfilm employees are some of the same people who worked on the prequels, and even some people who worked on the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So it's
just keeping it in the family. So let's I know we sort of got off course a little bit. Let's try to wrap up with
what we do best.
Yeah, exactly. 4 or 5. Let's wrap up with 6 and talk a little bit about that.
I loved that nothing explosive happened until it was just Bix and Cassian. I love how, you think these Gorman rebels have it together, that they're going to follow orders. Maybe he didn't feel that way, but at least like something was going to happen because Cyril and the ISB were going to let it happen. And then they just royally screw it up in the worst way with Cinta dying,
Yeah. It was
Especially
very,
after we got this, that redemption of Vel and Cyril and or Cinta, of like them coming together. And also that was like something that 10 years ago would have been publicized and like been really crazy and very polarizing, where it was just quick and it happened and it really built on the story. So like, there's been a lot of politics sides of things where I felt like that wasn't what it was. It was like, this is the story.
I don't know if I'm tuned out to it because I just have ignored it for so long now, or if it doesn't exist. Like, I haven't seen any of that stuff. Like, people complained all the time about just certain. I mean, the Acolyte obviously got the boatload of it last year, but people complain about that stuff all the time because they're like, oh, they're just throwing it in there just to throw it in there, whatever. But like you said, it's so for the story in this scenario, because that whole relationship between Vel and Cinta is so, I guess, just subtle in the first season, and then coming into season 2 they're separated, then they bring them back together, have this whole great whatever reunion, and then she dies. Cinta dies right after that, and it's this crazy great arc for the two characters,
right?
But I haven't seen any complaints about it online, and hopefully there isn't, because it's like, what are you going to complain about?
Right.
But
I just love how it fit. It was it's like you said, it wasn't forced, it was just, it was perfect. It was what the story needed.
And also, after the events occur, Vel maybe has speech of the season so far to the guy who's crying.
That is good.
It was very good. And I don't know where it goes from here, but
so I had mentioned I fell asleep while I was watching the watch party with Mike because I had a very, very long day.
Yes.
And as I was coming back, it was that speech, and I woke up because I thought she said he, and I thought it was Luthen, and I like woke up and I'm like,
woke up to Luthen's possible death.
I thought it was. I was like, you can't die this soon.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what's crazy about the show too. Is week 1 Brazo dies, and Brazo's not like a main character or anything.
We all love him.
Yeah, we all loved him, and he's sort of a very important character to Cassian. Cinta dying, she's not like the biggest character. Nobody was predicting it, but it is so important. And moving forward, it's like nobody is safe. She dies to a random blaster fire. Like, these two guys are just arguing over whatever, and he's holding a blaster and he just randomly blasts it off, and it just so happens to hit Cinta. It's like the most crazy way to kill off a character just accidentally. So
White Lotus style.
Vel did say, don't no one else gets a blaster. Only us two.
Well, and it's huge. It's huge to your point, Mike, because as far as this whole thing goes, with the characters we have, Cinta is implied and shown many times, but shown and implied to be the most solid of the group.
Yes.
And effective of the group.
Yeah.
And now she's gone.
Yeah.
To that event.
Exactly. It's very crazy, and it leaves you on the edge of your seat too, because now you're like, well, anybody can die. And that's sort of how it's been with Andor since you look back at season 1, where you get all the deaths of Skeen and Nemec and all those people on Aldhani. And then you get introduced to Kino Loy, who's a fan favorite, and then he dies. He can't swim. And then like all these different characters, Marva, they die. Everybody's dying. So nobody's safe in Andor. And now with 6 episodes left, really no one's safe, because these characters don't appear in Rogue One. And this show is leading right into Rogue One. So you got to either explain really well why they're not in Rogue One or kill them off. So
there's only 2 people that are going to end up there. Well, 3, I guess, because Krennic's back in there.
Yeah.
But Saw and Cassian and Krennic. So it'll be interesting to see what
Mon
Mothma, Bale.
a few more. But you know what I mean.
Bale.
I think it'll be interesting to see how some of these characters go, because
as
much as we just talked about Cinta's death, and when we're continuing to talk about it, Luthen and Bix, I think, both have to have and maybe that's why they did that. Maybe that's why they did this. Okay, this was sort of a mishap of war. You know, she got killed by friendly fire, if you want to call it that. But
Yeah.
Luthen and Bix, it's got to be something dramatic. Again, like I said, whether it's Saw or Cassian that takes out Luthen,
Yeah.
you know, what happens to Bix? Do they go on a mission together and he sees her die, and that makes him even more of a killer? So it'll be interesting to see what they do when they bring everybody to that fruition of not making it to Rogue One.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of you know, it's a horrible thing to have happen, obviously, that's how Cinta dies. But Andor is full of this. Rogue One is kind of full of this. There are other things that people get upset about that have this quality, but I like when something in Star Wars takes a concept or something that's very Star Warsy, and you can define that however you want. Maybe it's sneaking on a ship or having a perfect plan, and it goes great, the good guys win, and then just saying, sorry, didn't matter, done. I think it adds to this whole stress of like, oh my God, so what now? You know, we see the fruition of all this work they're putting in the originals, where time and time again, the most improbable thing the good guys could ever do, they're 100% efficient at it. Field goal percentage is 100% in the original everything. And we're seeing how it really goes down in, you know, real life, and all of the sacrifices that get them to that point. And although it sucks, that was probably more excruciating than them not succeeding at their plan and everyone gets stuck in a shootout and they die that way. Like, this is like painful. This is, you know, and I like when they do that. I mean, I would even cite in The Last Jedi there, you know, I know everyone was really upset because like the Canto Bite stuff didn't matter. There was no point to it, but that was the point. That like the big Star Warsy plan that they came up with in 5 seconds was stupid, and it shouldn't work, and it shouldn't be how we expect the heroes to win it. And nothing mattered. It didn't matter. And so, you know, I like when that stuff happens, and I think that it adds a little bit of like, what's Val gonna do now? Like, how is this gonna affect everybody? Luthen's losing it a little bit. Val lose it. Gormans are screwed. We already know that. So I mean, I don't know.
It's just crazy because, like you said, all those unanswered questions after Cinta's death and after all this stuff happened, we don't get to know really, like, because it's a year later. So a lot of those questions, the answers are pieced together, maybe a little bit, but a lot of them are just like, I don't know, whatever. You know, I want to go back to Saw for a second, because Saw obviously is losing his mind, but he, like Luthen, is talking about how he says, I think, we will never see the Republic return or something along those lines. Like, we won't be alive when the Republic comes back or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Luthen's been talking about this sunrise that he'll never see. And both those characters die before the Republic comes back, at least as far as we're aware. We know that Saw does, at least. So a lot of these characters are going into this with the mindset of, I'll make the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. And I wonder if a character like Bix, because Luthen obviously already has that in mind, but Bix is so interesting because her character is such a mystery. And the fact is, coming into Andor Season 2, we know where the character of Cassian goes. We know where he dies. We know where he began in Andor Season 1. So it seems like, from an outside perspective looking in, Andor Season 2's plot should be pretty straightforward. We should know what's going on. We don't. We don't at all. Like, there's so much mystery about all these different characters leading into the back half of this season. And even with all the trailers that we've received, all of them, the hundreds of trailers we've watched, we don't know what happens to Bix. We don't know what happens to Luthen. We really don't know how K2SO even becomes a rebel or anything like that. So we've been given all this information through trailers, but all that information is pretty much useless, or at least already shown through the first 6 episodes. So it's really just crazy that they can write a story so well that we're going into the back half of the season not knowing pretty much anything.
I think that plays into your speculation about Leia, though, Mike. Because
exactly.
Like, this sunset they'll never, or the sunrise they'll never see. You know, obviously that's them saying we're putting in all of this really dangerous work and we could die any day, blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
like they clearly see a future, and I would assume in the in-universe feeling amongst all of them is that someone like Leia is our future, and or people like that, because like Luthen can't see himself, Saw can't see himself as like, when this is all over, I'll take over, I'll be general or whatever. They're like, it ain't about me, and it's not going to be about any of you. And there's something we're setting up for, and they need that confidence. They can't just, and I think it's also a matter of Luthen knowing we can't just beat them, head to head. We'll never beat them head to head. This will be a long thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I was just
no, you're absolutely right. Because we don't know so much about it, like characters like Leia can show up. Characters like Bail Organa can have a big role. Like that's what's really cool about it. We're going in with not much knowledge. So the people who are still holding out hope for like a Vader or Palpatine, like, I mean, it doesn't seem likely, but you never know. Like Vader is in Rogue One, and Palpatine's been mentioned 100 times already. So who knows?
Talk about being mad about Jimmy Smits. I wonder how people are going to feel when the voice is different for Vader, when they inevitably in some project bring him back.
Well, no, they did a deal or whatever with either James before he died or James's family to
I think it was his estate.
Yeah,
they can use
AI create his voice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think actually in Kenobi, that's the first time where it's created visually.
Okay.
So that's not James. Well, it is James, but it's not. So yeah, there's that. I mean, the more Vader, the better.
Anything.
Well, I think my thing is we didn't see anything in the first season. We didn't really have a cameo.
No.
For the most part, besides, you have Mon, but she's a big part. She's a big part of this. You have Jimmy Smits, who is a big part of the rebellion. As much as I would love to see somebody from the Rebels crew when Andor grabs Mon Mothma and they pass him off like we see in that episode of Rebels, even if it's just a Hera saying thank you or whatever happens, that would be amazing. But as I continue to think about it and think about last season, I don't think we're going to get any cameos. I think Tony's done a good enough job with the characters that we have. We know the beginning, we know the end, and he's filling in the middle here. As much as we would all love to see these characters, I don't think we're going to be disappointed if we don't. Does that make sense?
I think this is a lesson to us all.
Yeah.
I think it's a lesson to us all to not put our faith in like cameos and more into what we have. But Mike made a point earlier that, it feels like the crescendo is Gorman. The way the story is going, it makes us feel like that's where this whole thing's going. But as you pointed out before, that has to happen in this next batch, timeline wise, which means this like twist everyone's been alluding to in all of the media leading up to it about like, it's just, it turns itself, I don't remember exactly how they've been wording it, could go in a direction where cameos are necessary or okay. I don't think we're going to get a litter of them, but you know.
I mean, if you think about it, if Bail Organa is leading to Leia or something along those lines, and they do Leia so well, they like, because obviously Carrie Fisher's gone, but if you do Leia justice and give her like that's a 96 out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes, like right then and there. But yeah, no, more to your point, I think if we are going to get cameos, it'll be like more mentions. Like somebody brought up a great point in one of my live streams that was or maybe it was I don't even know. I just saw it somewhere. And
you still need sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hallucinated when the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan came into my room and he said, no, but somebody mentioned, like, what if Luthen mentions Fulcrum or like something like Ahsoka Tano's Fulcrum, or because he has so many connections to the other rebels and stuff that, or even Mon Mothma does, that they would have some connection there. So not even like seeing the Rebels crew or not even seeing Harrison Dula, but maybe getting mention of the Ghost crew or what's their Phoenix Squad or something like that. Yeah. getting a mention of that, or getting a mention
Cal
of
Kestis.
Cal Kestis, or getting a mention of Fulcrum as Ahsoka. Like that would be enough for me. Like I don't need a big cam. I don't need Ahsoka to show up in Andor season 2. I don't need that.
Yeah, I don't even think we need any of them to really show up.
Yeah.
In the like, we've been spoiled already. Go ahead. Sorry.
I wouldn't be upset to see a guy, just the back of a guy walking with a poncho on. I mean,
there you go.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Well,
No words, just some red hair and a poncho.
Well, I think a mention is enough. It's the connection to this is all connected. It's the same way, like Leia's in Rogue One, but she's only in the very end to set up a New Hope. But we already know, like when Bail Organa says bye to Mon Mothma, and he's like, I'm going to get the Death Star plans, and I'm going to send somebody I trust quite a bit or whatever. And he's talking about his daughter. Like that's all the mention we need. It's just a nod to that character, and we're like, oh, yep, we know that. So, I mean, it's just to make the rebellion feel connected moving into Rogue One, so that all these stories are connected. That's why the mentions of Palpatine are fantastic, because you're like, okay, Palpatine's involved with this. It's the Empire, Tarkin,
and I feel like I even glossed over it, and I'm just thinking now that we're talking about it, like we got Krennic episode 1.
Yeah,
you know, we got Krennic immediately, and I don't know when I thought we'd see him, but I thought that would be like a big deal reveal. So I don't think we're done, but I think it's going to be people that matter to this right now, because you don't really want it to feel out of place with like Ahsoka coming in. Because of where they end up, though, like the Rebels crew being seen, like because they're seen in Rogue One, kind of. You know,
the Ghost is
being seen, or seeing Chopper like glide across the hall.
Yeah,
you know, that I could see that, but like
Thrawn. Let's have Thrawn.
Yeah. Well, like I really want Palpatine. I know I said before any of it came out, I really think it would be great if he was in there, and it'd be great if he was involved in Mon Mothma getting kicked out or something.
Yeah.
I'm now losing it. There's been so many mentions of him that I just think it's done.
And he has so many underlings that they can take care of that business as well.
Yeah.
And when she calls him a monster, he's not going to be the one to boot her out. He's gonna he is eventually, or he's going to be behind the scenes, but he's going to point to, hey, you go take care of this for me.
And it even goes more towards the original trilogy. Like the original trilogy, when you think about it, Palpatine's only really, I mean, he's in The Empire Strikes Back, but as a hologram. He's only in Return of the Jedi. So he's only in one of the 3 movies. And his screen time is not that large in Return of the Jedi. So he's this massive villain that everybody loves so much, but he wasn't really all that involved. He's just being mentioned in the first 2 movies, and like it's the same thing happening now. Like he's just a presence felt from a distance.
Yep.
So wrapping up on the on on episode 6, I really thought, and I know we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but when Bix goes and we have no idea what's going on, you know, we see the doctor come in, and the lights come on, and she's just standing there. I thought that was brilliantly done, and I think that, like we talked about before as well, I think that was a Cassian and Bix thing on their own. We're going to go take care of this. I think he possibly could be rebelling a little bit against Luthen, saying, you know what, screw you, you're going to play games like this, I'm going to go take care of something to, you know, make her feel better, make her feel, get her revenge, whatever we want to think that is. And then they go do that. I think we all of a sudden have a year in between where I think they're going to be going and doing missions and stuff that we don't get to see. And then we come back next week and something happens to her for sure. I think in this thing, I don't think she dies at the Gorman massacre as part of the massacre. Maybe she dies on Gorman, but I don't think it'll be I don't think it's a stormtrooper that's going to kill her. I think it'll be something different.
I honestly think it would be sort of on brand with how this season's been going. Is when you think about it, Brazo dies because Cassian's not there. Like he's not there soon enough, so he dies before he can get there. A lot of that has to do with obviously what happens with him on Yavin 4, but still he's not there. Cinta dies, and it's an accident to an extent, and it's rebel activity, but it's still an accident. What if Bix dies because yet again Cassian's not there? Maybe it's even an accident. Like, what if while the Gorman massacre is going on, Bix is not invited or Bix isn't on mission there, but Cassian is, and they've split up again. Cassian might not be happy about it, but they do it again, and while they're split up, she dies. So while Cassian maybe is fighting for his life on Gorman and barely survives because so many people get slaughtered there, Bix is dying. Like, what if it's they're not even together? Like, that would be disastrous.
Big comment here that I forgot about. If you want to put that on the screen from Corvus Red, I forgot all about the flashing light. He says, I think taking out Dr. Gorst was Luthen's mission. He was signaling them from the second Bix sees the flashing light.
That's what I thought too, because it leads up to it with the whole Lonnie conversation. Partagaz tells Lonnie that Gorst is getting the new assignment. So the only reason that they know where Gorst is because of that intel from Lonnie, and that gets to Luthen. And I think the conversation with Luthen and Bix in episode 2 is yes to get under Cassian's skin and stuff like that. But when he gets there and sees the drugs and stuff, he really knows that they need Bix. They need Bix. So he wants to sort of give her Gorst so that she can come back. And that's
it sets them up in a bad way though, because they got one thing. Inevitably, I think Cassian and Bix might have left a trail. And
that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
That gives Dedra access again.
Well,
and not only that, but it shows there's a mole because they just got this project for Gorst, and now someone made it in there and killed him.
And not only that, they do have video surveillance, and he just showed up to Luthen's place.
Yeah.
So, like, everything's being monitored everywhere.
Well, Partagaz, too, and this would be crazy genius, because the Empire looks like geniuses in these last 3 episodes. They're really the ones who usher in the entire... they're making sure the rebel activity happens on Gorman. Dedra, Partagaz, they look like geniuses. So it would be crazy if Partagaz purposefully told Lonnie and the other guy, whatever his name is, they told them, specifically those two, on purpose to see if one of them was the mole. And then once Gorst dies, they're like, okay, it's one of those two. Go get him. Like, that would be crazy. I don't know if that'll happen, but it'd be wild.
And I could see Dedra in her ambition getting rid of the one that took her job and not the actual mole. And then thus showing the ineptitude of the Empire a little bit because of their own competitive system.
That would be pretty wild if Lonnie,
they've got some accelerant to the fire of them needing to get out of Dodge and get to where they're at by the time we get to Rogue One. I think, like you said, Derek, Luthen's shop done, and the business done. Too close on all accounts. And now Cassian went there.
Yeah.
And
did Cassian use Rhydonium?
Right. I don't know.
Was that explosion part of Saw? Was this all? I mean,
I don't think so.
I think an explosion on Gorman will be because of Rhydonium.
Well,
I'm just wondering, like, did he get access? And we probably won't know. That's probably like a little bit more of a deep dive. But like, what did he use to blow it up?
Yeah,
I will say, like, we assume Bix is going to die. We assume Luthen's going to die. But everything has to be gone. Like, the gallery has to be gone. Clea has to be gone. Like, all these things that aren't in Rogue One, that aren't in the original trilogy, they got to go. I don't know how that's going to work. Like, we don't really talk about it because we talk about Luthen and Bix because they're two very important characters to Cassian that will likely die. But characters, sort of smaller characters, I guess, like Wilmon or like Clea, who are not in Rogue One, they probably have to die too. And Clea is a very interesting one because she's sort of the runner of the gallery when Luthen's not there. And like, how is she going to die? Like, Luthen's, I feel like death will be more important than Clea's, but it'll still be an important one.
Well, but I also think that you might have them. They could just go away. I mean, they could, send them off somewhere or go on a different mission and something else happens, because I don't think, unless they're all together at once and one big bomb just blows everybody up, we're not going to see each individual person that we're talking about right now, I don't think, die.
Mhm.
it would be
we're gonna have
crazy.
some of them will, but some of them won't.
What they've been doing though with the last episode 3 and episode 6, the last arcs of these episodes, has been these 2 or 3 overlapping stories at the same time.
Yeah.
This week it was Bix and Cassian blowing up that stuff, while the rebels were on Gorman, and while Clea was bleeding, trying to take out the device on Coruscant. So those 3 big things are happening at the same time. In episode 3, you have Mon Mothma's daughter's wedding happening at the same time as Cassian coming to save his friends and all that stuff, at the same time as whatever's happening with Dedra and Cyril. I don't even remember anymore. But all that stuff's happening at the same time. So what if it was really just a montage? It was just like Clea, boom, dead. Luthen, boom, dead. Bix, boom, dead. Like they'll all just die like one after another at the same sort
I
of.
think my heart can take that. Or
Well,
my blood
you
pressure.
have that, but we have that when we watch these Jedi Council members die when Order 66 comes.
Yes, exactly. Like
see
a
boom.
montage of just boom, dead, dead,
Yep.
dead. And you have the same thing in Rogue One. You watch Chirrut die. Right after him, the big dude with the machine gun die. Right after them,
Yep.
Jin and Cassian die. Like
Very
it's
good
just boom,
point.
boom, 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 boom. So maybe it's something similar to
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Also,
See that.
I think we're forgetting something that, well, maybe we're not forgetting it, but a more likely cameo would be a Galen or so later on. If we're
I'd love
assuming,
that.
if we're assuming Gorman happens in this 3rd arc, and we have a whole other arc to go, we have to potentially, if we're really gonna like dive into Rogue One, we got to see Bodhi Rook defect, and why they want to give him to Saw.
Yep.
You know, like, so we might see.
And Mike, like
Right.
you were saying, we could see that in that last little. We got the Gorman massacre, which is going to probably take up a couple more episodes. I would say at least one full episode,
Yeah.
and then you still have, like you said, 3 more to go. That's a great point.
We're probably going to be actually knee deep in Yavin 4 by the end.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
by the end, he's supposedly going to talk to the guy in the alley about the Death Star, and they're already fully functional. They're on their way.
Yeah.
So I think next week's episodes has to end with them sort of going, let's go to Yavin, and then we'll meet up a year later when they fully have a functioning.
I think the montage you're referring to is probably Gorman aftermath, Mon Mothma getting booted, something else, and then and then we go into the 4th arc.
Yeah, which who knows what that is.
And I could definitely see, like you were saying, Nick, to have someone from Rogue One come in, because we have Jimmy Smits coming in. We have the calamari coming in. What's his name? The
Radis.
Admiral Radis.
So again, you have some of these other people come in. So a Galen Erso would be a cool one, but it's not a OG coming back like a Palpatine or a Vader.
It would be cool and hit us as quietly as Krennic did in the very first episode.
Right, you're bringing Krennic into this, so you have these characters from Rogue One. I think that's more likely to see a character from Rogue One come in instead of some of these other people. Which again, like I'd love to see a Hera. As they open the door and Mon Mothma walks in, you see Hera, sitting behind the cockpit or something.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, we still have to get K2SO.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the cool part. Is we talk about the Gorman Massacre being sort of the end all be all, but that's going to be next week, and we still know the K2SO is coming. We still know from the trailers that like Clea knows about the Death Star, or knows that there's a secret weapon. So that stuff's going to happen too. The Death Star is going to play a big role in these next 6 episodes, because there's going to be, I think Clea in the trailer says like they have a weapon or something. She says something to Cassian, and she looks like she's been through it, whatever. And then we have, of course, the scene where Krennic is looking out at the Death Star as it's being created. So we're going to get more of that stuff that we don't really talk about when we talk about the back half of the season, because the Gorman Massacre is such an important event.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all that other stuff happening at the same time. And maybe that stuff is saved for the finale or the final 3 episodes. But the Death Star is going to be a big part. And especially leading into Rogue One, where the Death Star is the biggest thing, it'll probably be that last arc.
Yeah, and we're all, as soon as 12 ends, we're all just going to turn on Rogue One.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have, unless I fall asleep watching the watch party again. Like
exactly.
there's no reflection on your watch party whatsoever.
Okay.
It's the only reflection that I was up at 3 a.m.
You're gonna wake up. You're gonna wake up at the end of Rogue One, being like, Cassian can't die at the end of Andor.
No,
Yeah.
no.
What have they done?
Yeah, that messed me up for real.
Yeah,
Rogue
We
One
are
is crazy because it's
necessary loss.
Rogue One is crazy though because it is just everybody dies, and it's such a great story, but everybody dies.
but you know that going in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the thing, which is like, okay, we know this, but it's such a great story. It's such a great, it was
Yeah.
such a great movie.
Well,
know,
we know that a lot of people died. There was always that hope that they'd get off, but they didn't.
Maybe
Yeah,
a few
That's
of them.
why
yeah.
it was great.
Guys, I wanna before we wrap it up, wanna maybe like start a little trend for us here for
Okay.
our lives. Maybe we can all come up with one at the end of the lives. Maybe our chat can help us. But I wanted to start it easy that we might close with a detail that either we have talked about or haven't talked about that like got you the most in this arc. Like something you saw or a part that you were like, I want to talk about that on the live. Ron, you go first.
I'm like Mike. I'm thinking. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go first, and you guys can.
If you
if you
sound
got
like
one,
thought
go.
about it, so you probably have it.
So I haven't thought about it, but I thought about this idea.
Okay.
But I know that I appreciated. I think I said it before. I appreciated that. All this build up to we're going to do this right. We're going to do this attack right. Cyril and Dedra and Mike, can you give me their boss's name again?
Cyril and Dedra,
Partagas. They're all in on it. They're going to let it happen. We're going to see, as we always do in Star Wars, these good guys come together and do something cool and finally they do get the weapons, like you said. They do, don't they get no, never mind.
No, they steal the weapons, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they do get the weapons.
Yeah.
And then inevitably the whole thing just blows up in their face for like literally no reason. And turns out the big brute who's been a problem for them, Outspoken, is not actually the problem. It's a guy who brought a gun when he wasn't supposed to.
Yep.
And I just feel like that is Andor in a very small nutshell as far as like how that differentiates itself from other Star Wars shows, is that whole thing was painful and it wasn't your classic shootout. It wasn't, it means something without it being gratuitous. It was great. And you're already stressed out about so many other things that this thing's like, it's a thing that was freshest on my brain even after I watched Gorski hooked up to the machine. I was like, I can't believe that's how that went down. And it led to speech of the season so far. It led to the Gorse thing being a treat at the end rather than it being the focal point. That's what I'll say.
I got mine. All right. So it's the genius of the writing. And obviously we talk about Tony Gilroy all day long, but this week's episodes were written by Mr. Willymon, as I call him. He was the writer of the One Way Out arc from season 1, and he's going to be the writer of the Dawn of the Jedi movie, which is going to be great.
Yep.
So the genius of the writing is that these 3 episodes work very, very well in sort of a first act, second act, third act. And in terms of this specific 3-episode arc, it was the perfect execution. When we talk about it, how Lonnie being there because Partagas is working on the rebel attack on Gorman. So the rebel attack on Gorman leads to that, leads to this, leads to that, leads to this, leads to that. And everything is perfectly aligned in this 3rd episode. Everything that happens from episode 1 to episode 3 has a purpose. Every conversation has a meaning, and everything, including Bail Organa being recast, has something pushing the story forward to even next week. We're going to see the Gorman Massacre and more Bail Organa. So it's the genius of writing that has been all throughout Andor, but specifically in this 3-episode arc that just blew my freaking mind, because every little thing from the argument between Cassian and Luthen, which ends with Cassian going, "You got to help me. You got to help Bix." And then he does slightly by the little light flickering. And then they get the information of where Dr. Gorst is from Lonnie, who had a conversation with Partagas that happened earlier. It's all just so interconnected and it's so freaking good. And it culminates in Cinta's death, which was an accident. And like Nick says, probably the best speech of the entire season so far from Val. So it's the writing of it all that came together with every single character having a specific purpose in this 3-episode arc.
Derek?
Oh, to me, it's the character evolution of everything that they've done, in that people have been impatient, especially with the first season. And I think that is kind of waning, but it shows with Perrin for sure, of how he was easily one of the most hated characters in all of Star Wars in that first season. And now I am predicting that he is going to play a big role in this somehow, whether it is sacrificing himself or using his influence on other people to actually help the rebellion. I don't foresee him going against Mon at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And to your point, Derek, I think he's gonna make Mon look kind of bad. Like she blamed his gambling and like made a pariah out of him in the last season, and he's gonna do something good to help her so that she can get out of Dodge. And it's gonna be like, Mon's gonna finally have that Luthen moment of like, I was the asshole to make this good thing work. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's nice.
Mine was I agree with all you guys, and I think you all have very good and specific ideas. Mine was with Saw. I think the building of his character and to see what he's gone through, because again, we've already seen him in Clone Wars and Rebels, correct, and Rogue One.
Yep.
And in Rogue One, he is just this destroyed, beat up person who is still pushing and giving everything that he has to the rebellion. As crazy as he is, I think it was just a really cool arc to see him come alive in that, and then to show that Rhydonian, chemical and talk about that. It's almost like like Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys are too young to remember that, but back in the day. But I thought that was really cool for him to, and then for him to bring Wilmon into that. And now he's going to be a part of his crew, and he's also experienced this, thing. Somebody in the chat earlier said that thought that maybe he died but inhaling that, again, it's probably someone taking meth or cocaine or something for the first time, and then being evolved into something different. And I think it was just a really cool arc. And again, he is just such a good actor anyways. But it was such a great job, I think, that he did. And I'm very interested to see, and as gory as it may be, I hope we get to see sort of what happens to him and why he lost his legs, and why, again, maybe he does need that he's relying on that drug. And that's what that mask is that Rhydonian instead of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
absolutely
that was my part for that.
Yeah, because Saw Gerrera is not in episode 3. So all these different arcs come together in episode 3, but his arc is almost finished, I guess, because we get more of him in episode 2. But I just remember in the watch party, I got so hyped up when he gave his speech at the end of episode 2. I was like, I'm ready to go fight the Empire. But what the coolest part about his whole thing, though, is he starts it by calling the Rhydo his sister. He's like, sister. And he had a sister. We saw his sister die in the Clone Wars. It's very good. Yeah.
And at some point where he's at in Rogue One to now is different, because right now he is all about the cause, the rebellion.
Yeah.
By the time we're in Rogue One, it's his rebellion. And everyone's like, cool, see you never. We're going to be very careful if we ever even talk to you again. So I think there'll be some good stuff.
I saw somebody in the chat said, they're all going to die, right? You know that every character dies in Star Wars? Did you guys know that? Every character ever dies. Think about it. No, I absolutely agree. The Saw Gerrera stuff at the end of that second episode is so good. And it leads to getting more Saw maybe next week with the Gorman Massacre.
Absolutely.
But obviously in the final arc, we'll get more of him because we see him on Jedha.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, guys, again, thank you for coming on. We went a little over 2 hours, which is great, Mike. I know you got to get some sleep.
Go to bed.
If you guys are on here, thank you so much for jumping on. Brett, Andre, who was some of the other people, Pam, B-Man. So thank you guys for jumping on. Please make a comment, hit the like button if you haven't. Check out Mike's tomorrow live, correct?
Yeah, 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Eastern
Standard Time.
Yeah.
Who's on Eastern Standard Time? Central, baby. It's all about Central.
Well,
We will be
honestly,
back here again. Go ahead.
no, it's just funny because obviously everybody's different time, and you grow up in one place and you always think that everybody's just the same time, and then you're like, what are you talking about? You're in a different time zone.
I have to set it when I'm figuring out what time I'm going to watch your live. I'm like, oh wait a
Yeah.
minute. So he's on it too. So it's
You
1
gotta do
o'clock
the
my
math.
time. So
Yeah.
So we'll be back again next week, doing the same thing. We're going to recap episodes 7, 8, and 9, and then the following week again. Real quick, if you guys are in the Nashville area, we are going to be live. Nick and I will be live on Sunday, May 4th at Chopper Tiki Bar downtown in Nashville. I'll have some more stuff up on the website, which will be fun. Go ahead.
Is that named after Chopper, or is that just?
It might be.
I wish it was, but I don't think so. But they do a really cool May the 4th thing pretty much for the whole month. We will be giving away some tiki mugs on there as well. So join us at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. Nick and I will be out there, but I'll have some stuff up on social media, let everybody know the times again and what we're doing. But thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Thank all three of you guys, Nick, Mike, Derek. Thank you all. May the force be with you, and we will see you guys on the next Star Wars Jedi Chat.